Hey friends, well, have you ever wondered why there are these lines and sometimes arrows in the Enneagram symbol? And if you do understand what they are, is there anything you can do about that dynamic of your Enneagram personality type? Well, you've come to the right place, particularly if you're a type 5, 6, or 7, because today we're going to be talking about the lines and the arrows on the Enneagram symbol. Well, welcome to Your Enneagram Coach, the podcast. I am Jeff McCord, co-founder and CEO of Your Enneagram Coach. We help millions of people around the world, help them to discover, explore, in order for them to become themselves that they've always longed to be. Today, I am joined by Adam Breckenridge, the infamous, the notorious Director of Coaching here at YEC. Hey, Adam.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff. My kids, I call myself at home the notorious DAD, and they don't like it.
They don't like it?
They don't like it.
Oh, that's too bad.
It's okay.
What, do they have a nickname that they like?
No. They just, it's just Dad. Yeah.
It's just Dad.
Yeah. But that's okay.
My kids, whenever, so the 7, well, we talk a lot about parts and Enneagram types, connecting types. So as a 6, I have a 7 wing, and my kids call my 7 wing El Macordo because he is the life of the party. And that's the other name that they call me, like, oh, there's El Macordo.
There he is. Yeah.
There he is. I'm not sure what they call my Texas twang that comes out, my accent that every once in a while shows up.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have a name for that.
I'm going to work on that myself.
But they usually come out with prayer and fasting.
Yeah, those kind of demons. That's the only way to get them out.
I mean, you can take the boy out of Texas.
Yeah, but if you want to take the Texas demons out of the boy, it's prayer and fasting.
They're pretty fierce.
Yeah.
They're pretty fierce. They always threaten to leave, but they never really leave.
And if they ever come back, they come back with a vengeance. Oh man!
Oh, well, hey.
We're off to a good start.
We're off to a great start. I mean, I just introduced. We're going to be talking about lines and arrows, and now we're getting into mixing spirituality with being a Texan, which is its own spirituality. Let's be honest.
Let's be honest.
That is,
it's true
for sure. Well, hey, in this series, we're going to help you to better understand the lines or sometimes the arrows of the Enneagram symbol and learn how to practice or how to use this insight for your own self-coaching and leadership. In this episode, we're actually specifically going to be talking about the types 5, 6, and 7. If you want a broader understanding of each of the lines and arrows, go back to our previous episode in 241, where we just give you an overview of the lines and arrows. But for this podcast, we're going to go 5, 6, and 7. In the next upcoming episodes, we'll take the rest of the numbers. Each of the main type of the Enneagram has 2 lines that connect to 2 other types. Sometimes this is actually represented by an arrow. And the reason why there's an arrow and not a line sometimes is that teachers are trying to indicate that there's a dynamic happening, that we move in a particular direction and adopt the styles of relating of these other types. We don't become the other types, but we adopt their relational style. One way to think about these lines and arrows is to think about the relationship between Riley and her emotions in the movies Inside Out 1 and 2. Now, we talked at length about this and how that all shows up. And, Adam, I don't know if you'd like to, but would you want to summarize what it is about Inside Out and how it captures the 4 movements of the lines and arrows?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the film Inside Out, in Riley's inner world, each, her emotions are personified. Each character represents the emotion and has its own personality, and they have their own responses, their own strategies, their own core motivations, and they're all working really, really hard for Riley, trying to help her survive, everything that a middle school girl is trying to live and survive. They're trying to help her connect and protect. And again, they work really hard for her. The same is true about each of these connecting types that you're talking about, Jeff. Although they don't represent an emotion, they do represent a personality. And those personality types have their own responses. They have their own strategies, defense mechanisms. They have their own core motivations. And each of them will show up for you and really, fight to drive to take over the control board because they want to help you. And they're going to show up sometimes in healthy ways, and sometimes they're going to show up in not so healthy ways.
And the way that we talk about those, particularly here at YEC, is that there are 4 ways that these types show up. One is the stress path, which
Yep.
means adopting the unhealthy attributes of a type. And that stress paths can also be a healthy thing called the converging path, which is when we're most free from the limitations of our personality restraints. Now, there's also the growth path, which is adopting the healthy attributes of a connecting type. But that growth path can also be the blind spot path, where it's a way of relating that we are blind to, and it's usually with close family members or close friends. So as we promised at the beginning of the show, that we're going to be talking through the head triad, the 5s, 6s, and 7s. So Adam, why don't you bring it home for type 5s?
Yeah, let's talk about type 5. So type 5s are connected to, in the lines and the arrows, type 7. So the type 5 would have in its internal family, if you will, a type 7 part. And so just to kind of summarize that, if you're a type 5, that type 7 part is going to give you the ability to enjoy a more exciting and abundant life with others. It's a part of you that's going to be excitable, resilient, spontaneous, energetic, optimistic. Sometimes, it's a part of you, 5s, that will be, a little scattered, maybe interested in taking on too many exciting projects. Things that you're starting but struggling to complete. This is some of the ways that this type 7 can show up. It's also, your type 7 part is it causes you to have a kind of a racing mind. It can show up in like restlessness, hyperactivity, maybe having a hard time denying what it desires. It doesn't want to be bored. It doesn't want to be, if you find yourself as a type 5, like, I really don't want to be limited. I don't want to be deprived. This is some of the ways that this is probably indicative of, this is your type 7 path part that's showing up for you. So,
Adam, what comes to mind whenever I hear those descriptions is Robin Williams in the movie Flubber.
oh yeah,
Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Kind of the frenetic, absent-minded type. They can be both hyper-focused and kind of scattered all at the same time.
That's right. That's exactly right. So, you said, Jeff, these can show up in different ways. Let's talk about the stress path. How to recognize the misaligned. This is the misaligned traits of the connecting type 7. Do you sometimes, if you're a type 5, do you sometimes notice that you have a racing mind? As I said, becoming scattered, restless, hyperactive. Do you sometimes, overbook your schedule with fascinating experiences and interests, or maybe become a little bit impulsive and take on too many projects? Do you find yourself as a type 5 becoming more talkative with others, maybe to the point that you're even like having an out of body experience? What am I doing? Oversharing? Well, I'm sharing new possibilities that you see, sharing information that you've absorbed. Maybe you become erratically focused on learning everything at like a feverish pace, causing you to be less patient with people. That's an example of that stress path and how the type 7 can show up, in the average to unhealthy traits of the type 7. Now, let's talk about the converging path. This is like type 5s emerging as their healthiest self. This is whenever the healthy, most mature, self-actualized traits of the type 7 show up for you as a 5. And this is where you find yourself maybe enjoying life more to the fullest, trusting that God is benevolent, that he's kind, that he's going to provide for your needs. You're probably a little more fun and spontaneous and maybe physically active, less fearful about that catastrophic depletion, still having your boundaries, still needing your solitude, still needing your time to recharge, but less withholding, less of the avarice and withholding of yourself, and more generous and spontaneous in the way you show up relationally. You probably, you're a little more hopeful, optimistic, joyful, seeing that life is full of purpose and meaning. So that's that, Jeff, that's that converging path, and how the 7 can show up in a healthy sense. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, I was just thinking, we to each of these parts, we have relationships with these parts.
That's
So
right.
we may only be able to observe one attribute or one side of a part. So, particularly in Enneagram teaching, when we only focus on stress and growth path, we miss out on the whole opportunity of recognizing that there's a whole other side that this part of us brings. But I would imagine for a five that they don't enjoy being scattered or overbooked, and they probably don't enjoy oversharing with others whenever they get really excited about a
Hmm.
project. But this seven part of their heart is also something that can bring them life and fun and spontaneity. It really is kind of the hope of the five to be able to kind of let go of the five's restraints that hold them back, to be more abundant minded, to be less scarcity minded. And so you may have a relationship of ambivalence towards this seven part of your heart because you don't trust it. But there is a gift there, and we're going to show an exercise at the when Adam after he goes through the type 8 part. That's going to help you to recognize this and to practice some self leadership so that you can bring out the healthiest part of this seven part of you and the eight part of you, so that you can be more present to yourself and to others.
Yeah, yeah, very good. Let's talk about the other path or the other arrow or line that type fives have. We've talked about the seven, but the fives are also connected to the type eight. So here's kind of a summary of your connecting type eight, the eight part of you, if you will. Your eight path or part gives you the ability to trust your instincts, to take action. This is the part of you that is decisive and assertive, protective of yourself and others. If you feel that your space is being, your energy is being intruded on, this is the part of you that has no problem stepping up and challenging anyone that is breaching your boundaries. Your eight part also causes you to confront, anybody that displeases you. It's the part of you that, again, can be intense, can be confrontational, is also big hearted. This is the part of you that's got, it's just, it's there, there's a tenderness to it. There's a strength to it, a unique tenderness and strength that the type eight blends. And so this is just a summary of how this part of you shows up. Now, for the type five, the blind spot is type eight. So this is the unhealthy characteristics of the type eight. And again, the type five doesn't become an eight, but gravitates over and kind of borrows from the unhealthy traits of the eight. And so you may notice yourself, in this case, when you're in that path, when that part of you showing up, however you want to think about it, you may notice yourself asserting boundaries forcefully, confronting people, becoming more aggressive, maybe even vengeful, especially if you are blindsided, if you're really caught off guard, or if you feel betrayed. You may question others' competence while asserting your own knowledge with strength. And there can be, this intellectual sort of intellectual ego that begins to emerge. You may become more private and secretive because there's this fear of being betrayed and fear of vulnerability that the type eight has. So think about that for a type five who already loves, solitude and to be a little more withdrawn, like values a little more of that, solitary life. And then the type eight's fear of vulnerability and being taken advantage of, or being betrayed, when that shows up for the type five, that can really create a tall, thick fence that you start to display with other people. And so this is some of the ways that, this is the blind spot for the type five. Now, the growth path for the type five is the healthy traits of a type eight. So in this case, the type 8 gifts you with self confidence, decisiveness, a healthy assertiveness. You may find yourself trusting your instincts, becoming bolder, getting out of your head and into your gut a little more when it comes to taking action. So, fives, I know sixes can get into be prone to overthinking and really thinking before they act. So the joke is, you know, whereas some Enneagram types are more ready, fire, aim, fives can be ready, ready, aim, 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 ready, aim, aim, fire. But in the healthy in the growth path, when the healthy 8 is showing up for you in a healthy way, you're quicker to take action. You're quicker to operate out of your gut instinct, and that's a gift that the 8 brings you. You're also notice you may be more active. You may be just physically more active, more engaged with your life. You may isolate yourself less and be a little more of a snowplow when it comes to blazing a path for others with the knowledge and wisdom that you have and sharing the knowledge and wisdom that you have. And you probably also notice that you're willing to take on more responsibility and demonstrate courage and confidence. And that's the giftedness that the type 8 brings you in that growth path. Jeff, you want to talk about you want to add anything to that you want to add, and you want to lead us through the exercise?
Yeah, sure. I love the idea that that you used the word that this part of us gifts us. Whenever we face a circumstance, we sort of can sometimes pick a perspective on how to confront an issue or address a problem or a circumstance. And what the Enneagram does for us in understanding these connecting types as parts is that we can see it from another perspective. Mm-hmm. That I might be inclined as a type 6 to address a problem with my 5 wing or this 5 part of my heart and go to my books. Mm-hmm. And then there's another part of me, the 7 part of the wing, let's say, that wants to jump in with excitement and adventure and curiosity. So the idea that we have these parts as gifts and sometimes liabilities, but as gifts to help us.
That's right.
When you can think of back to the Inside Out movie, where just one part trying to control isn't what we're looking for. We're looking for integration here, not individuation of each of these parts. Now, one of the exercise that Beth and I have developed that we practice ourselves is the AWARE acrostic. And AWARE stands for awaken, welcome, ask, receive, and engage. And the way that we like to think about this, particularly as it relates to 5, is awaken. How are your 7 or 8 parts showing up in your life right now? Are they showing up in your thinking? Are they showing up in your emotions? Or are they even showing up in your body? The next one is welcome. And what do we mean by welcome is that rather than denying or justifying these attributes and just kind of accepting them as they are, let's become curious about them. Because at times we can kind of move away from certain parts of us and try to deny them rather than getting curious to find out what is it that they perceive the need is, that we as our own leaders, our own team leads, can actually address the needs in a healthier way. The next is ask. Start by asking yourself why these parts are showing up for you in the first place. What needs are they seeking to address that you may not want to recognize? Next is receive. Receive the gift that you are more than one part. You have other parts of you that can help you identify your needs and move towards them in healthier ways. What do the healthier parts of you have to offer? So think about the difference of sort of other people intruding on your space. There is an unhealthy 8 response to it that Adam was describing. But what would it be like to look at from the perspective of the type 7 that embraces the excitement and the joy of having other people walk alongside them? These 2 parts of you may be in competition to some degree, but they have needs. And so what we really want to do is just to consider the possibility and to use our imagination to think, okay, what is another way, another part of me's way of responding to the situation? And then lastly is engage. To engage yourself, your relationships, and your circumstances in a new way. Is it what's your plan for reevaluating how you related and then re-engaging in a new way that comes from a much more healthier place? Well, why don't we dive into type 6? We're familiar with this neighborhood. We around here. We grew up here. We live here.
Yeah, I feel like this could get dangerous here.
That's right. Yeah, there's a lot of sixiness on this particular episode.
A
lot of sixiness.
Let's be honest, we're 60 and we know it.
That's
That's
right.
It just is what it is.
It is.
Don't
It's out
fight
there
it.
now.
Don't fight it.
We're not going to edit that out. We're going to leave that in there, Adam. So from now on, it shall be known. We're 6 and we know it. You're lucky he didn't start like making some kind of banjo or guitar sound behind it.
I have a guitar. I have a guitar right here.
I know. I know what you could do.
The other one that we didn't say is we're bringing 60 back. We didn't mention.
I gotta be honest with you. I don't know if I'm going to be a candidate for that. I lost my 60ness back in the 90s, and it's gone.
Way back in the night. Wait, you mean way back in the 1900s?
Yeah, that's right. Although I was really pleased, I was pleasantly surprised. Someone on YouTube commented on one of our initial episodes after Beth's sabbatical. Oh, I can't remember the name of the guy, the actor, but someone said, "Oh, Slater from
Christian Slater."
No, not Christian Slater.
Oh.
Oh gosh, Saved by the Bell Slater.
Oh, AC Slater.
AC Slater, yeah.
Yeah.
Someone, compared me to him. I'm like an older version of him. I'm like, oh, that's nice.
I could totally see
Thank you for that.
And I can't be your Zach Morris. I'm probably closer to Screech than I am Zach Morris, but that's okay. It is what it is.
Oh man, Saved by the Bell and types. Let's do that.
Let's do that episode.
Hey, let's talk about the type 3 and type 9, the two connecting types for the type 6. So we're going to look through each of these, both in their healthy contributions as well as unhealthy ones, the stress and growth, and then the blind spot and converging. So for the type 6, you're connected to type 3. And that 3 part gives you the ability to trust yourself and not allow your inner committee to sabotage your actions. And it can cause you to worry about your self-image and to keep busy to avoid feeling anxious. Now, one way that you can understand how to recognize when this 3 part of you is showing up, particularly as a stress path, okay, and is that, one, do you arrogantly believe that you alone are seeing all the possibilities and scenarios, which is really, I mean, Beth accused me of this all the time because I don't think I'm a pessimist, I'm a realist, but I don't think that other people see what I'm seeing, and there's an arrogance about it, like I knew that was coming. And it's kind of surprising that arrogance can come out of an anxious 6, but it is true, and it's a part of me, and it's there. So this can also show up as keeping busy to avoid feeling anxious feelings, which, yes. I don't know if I'm going to like this because am I just reading all of my character defects in front of?
Yeah. You're reading all of my character defects in front of everyone.
Okay,
this is where you've gone from like stepping on my toes to meddling. You're flat out meddling at this point,
right?
Oh
man. So why don't I put it rather than you? Adam, do you refuse to try something new if failure is a possibility? Do we? Maybe I should change it to we or I. Like, am I worried about my self-image and what others might be thinking of me? Oh.
Yeah. How does that feel? Changing the pronoun to personal, does it makes it pretty personal, doesn't it?
It does. Cool. I mean, I walk in the mornings now, and there's one hill that I walk up that, I mean, it's a good hill. I mean, it gets my heart rate going, and I often wonder what I look like. Just suffering up that hill. And if someone walks past me, I kind of stand up straight and stick my chest out and act like I'm not breathing heavy.
Yeah. Yeah, like I got this.
When I probably look like I'm about to pass out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well,
I tried running up that hill one time by your house, and I had a very humiliating experience. But you keep going. You keep talking. It was rough.
I never told you this, but I actually, my cameras caught you. They caught you running up that. On the next episode.
I do not want to see the footage.
Embarrassing things that the McCord's cameras have caught. Well, do we use our charm and likable persona to establish support and alliances with others? Oh, my man. It's just too close. It's too close, Adam.
It's too close.
Well, guess what? This three part of our art actually has a gift to offer us too. Do we know how to direct, respect, and trust ourselves? Man,
Mm.
whenever I sense that and have a sense of confidence, it is so freeing.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
do we meet our goals by devising more effective and efficient ways to accomplish them? Can we move forward confidently, not allowing our inner committee to sabotage us? Do we delight in what we have accomplished, knowing that we have contributed something great? And do we act bravely for others without getting trapped in worst case thinking? These are gifts that the type
Hmm.
3 part of our hearts really gifts us. It's not just the negative things as a stress path, but it's also part of the converging path as well. Well, the type 9 has both its strength and liabilities. So the 9 part of our hearts gives us the ability to relax, to enjoy the moment, slow down our minds. And it causes you to deal with stress by shutting down and reacting negatively to interruptions. As I talked about before, this I call him Phil, the 9 part of my heart can be the part of me that helps me to exercise silence and solitude. And it's the part of me that can practice silence and solitude, eating some Taco Bell and watching and binging a Netflix TV series all at the same time.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, how can we recognize when the blind spot path of the type 9? So, this is who we are whenever, perhaps around our closest family members or our closest friends. Do we deal with stress by shutting down, by disassociating? Do we sometimes forget who we are because we've chosen security and peaceful loyalty to others over our own passions and desires? So we kind of lose our own voice and identity. When we're overwhelmed, do we stubbornly resist others' demands and use passive aggressive behaviors to avoid confrontations? I've never done that before.
Mm.
I can't imagine a 6 ever
Yeah.
stubbornly resisting others' demands.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It sounds totally
Um,
foreign to me.
I didn't know that was an option. Um, or do we express irritation when others interrupt or disturb or insist that we get out of our comfortable routines and cozy environments? Oh man, that's funny for me because sometimes when I get Slack messages when I'm on my walk in the morning, I get kind of initially irritated. Like, this is my time.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
that I couldn't turn off the notifications. I totally could, and they're just doing their job. But for some reason, I can find myself getting. That's the blind spot path of the type 9 showing up in your life. Well, what's the growth path to the 9 look like? Well, we can take time to relax, to enjoy the moments, enabling us to slow down. We can empathize with others and extend compassion to them. We can develop secure relationships, not by our over functioning in relationships, but actually by becoming calmer, stable, and less reactive. And we can become emotionally peaceful and more open and receptive to others. Uh, Yikes! Emotionally peaceful and more open to others. That's nice.
Mm. Hmm.
And when trusting our inner guidance, we can reassure and support others with encouragements and with affirmations. I've noticed something, Adam, and I don't know if you've noticed. And you're a super encouraging guy. Like, it's certainly a gift of encouragement.
Mm.
But I've noticed too in my life, like sometimes whenever I say encouragements, like they seem to land significantly on people.
Yeah.
Like there is a real gift that this part offers to be able to affirm people in very
Yes.
meaningful ways. Do you notice that in your life too?
Yeah, I do, and it is the type 9 strength that shows up. Just to see, to be able to put the type 9 to be able to kind of put themselves in the shoes of every other type and see every type objectively and affirm what, you know, affirm the weight, the weightiness, and the glory, if you will, of each type's presence. You know,
Yeah.
that's a gift that the 9 has, and I do see the 9 gifting that to me as a 6.
Well, I feel like I don't want to take up all the time and share about my internal world and both its gifts and liabilities. Why don't you take us through Aware,
Yeah.
and let's just see what it brings up for you in front of the world.
Let's do that. Yeah. So the AWARE acronym. If you're listening to this episode, here's the basic steps. Jeff walked us through this with the type 5. It's the same for every type. It just takes on it's just nuanced. But A stands for ask. Ask yourself why these parts of you are showing up the way they are. In fact, you can ask the parts themselves. It's kind of like, the psalmist in Psalm 42 when he turns toward himself and says, "Why are you downcast, O my soul?" And if you say, who's he talking to in that text, he's talking to himself, and more specifically, he's talking to a part of himself, and he's asking the part of himself that feels downcast a question. It's not a judgmental question. Why are you downcast? What's wrong with you? It's a legitimate, it's a genuine curiosity. Tell me your story. Tell me how it is with you. How are you? Are you okay? Tell me what's going on. It's so you want to move into this posture of curiosity with these parts of you and how they're showing up. And then we move to the R, which is to receive. you know, Receiving the gift that all of these parts are offering you. You have other parts of you that can help you identify your needs and move toward them in healthier ways. And that's a real gift. So you want to receive what these parts are trying to give you. They're all showing up for you for a reason. And then E stands for engage. So this is now having this awareness, now that I have awakened to what's going on in me, and I have this curious, kind posture toward myself, and with all of that, now I can move forward in a different way. I can move forward in a new way with all of these parts of myself. So that is the aware exercise. And with that, how about we round out the head triad and talk about type 7, shall we?
Sounds great.
Let's do it. So type 7s are connected to type 1 and type 5 on the arrows. And let's start with the type 1. Your type 1 part for you 7s gives you the ability to accept life as it is and live for a higher purpose. You're going to notice a strong sense of responsibility and obligation to do the right thing, to improve yourself in the world. That's going to show up. You may also have, some of the unhealthy traits of the one that you notice. And so 7s, you may notice a part of you becoming more and more irritable, more and more critical of yourself and others. And you may notice that this is a part of you that is a little more serious, that carries, a sense of angst and anger about imperfections and just wanting to improve things around you. So that's one, you may notice that. So let's talk about how to notice the stress path traits of a type 1. This is the more unhealthy characteristics. So you may notice
Which
that.
is uncharacteristic of the 7. It's always surprising when you see a 7 go down their stress path, because it's like a different person.
Very much like a different person. Yeah. So you'll notice yourself imposing restrictions and limitations on yourself to be more productive. That sounds very anti-7ish. Don't put me in a
Right.
box. Don't put limits on me or restrictions. Yeah. But you may notice that you have an inner critic that is sort of showing up and enforcing these restrictions. Sometimes you may notice an irritability, like I said, a critical part of yourself. You may notice and point out imperfections around you and imperfections in yourself. You could even become a little bit of what you loathe, which is a micromanager. You could even start to notice a part of you that wants to sort of micromanage and control. And you may notice yourself getting upset with people who are preventing you from experiencing your ideal desires and situation. You may notice this kind of frustration with other people who are getting in your way. And so that's the stress path. That's the unhealthy traits. But thank God that's not all that a type 1 offers. The type 1 also brings a tremendous gift to the type 7. As I mentioned earlier, it helps you accept life as it is, both good and bad, and live for a higher purpose rather than just living for what's next. Live with a sense of deep meaning and purpose. Enables you to focus on your top priority and complete it on time without getting scattered and distracted. It enables you to slow down and take your time and make sure that things are done right, proper, correctly. It helps you take ownership of your responsibilities, even if they're not fun. Some of those details in life and some of those responsibilities, the details of our responsibilities are just not fun. But the type 1 gifts you with the ability to just take ownership of that and do what you need to do. So 7s, let's move from the type 1 to the type 5, which is the other arrow that you are connected to. Now, for the type 7s, the type 5 makes up the blind spot. And so you may notice that you are becoming, a part of you is becoming really independent, maybe putting up some boundaries to protect yourself from others being too invasive or too limiting in your time. One of the interesting things I've noticed in working with 7s is when they are in their public persona, like when they are in, at work and with friendships, they are the life of the party. They are, the adventurous, ones in the group. But then at home with the people that they are most comfortable with, they can more wall up and like put up boundaries and need more space. And it's like, wait a minute, what, you were
Mm-hmm.
at the party, you talk to every single person in the room for an hour, and then at home, that's like, they can go into a little more of a retreat mode around the people they're most comfortable with. And that's not that that's bad. It's just that it can be your blind spot path showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you may need to sort out your feelings by using your intellect before moving forward. You may notice that you're growing tired of constantly feeling like you need to be positive. That may actually start to exhaust you. And you may find yourself becoming, more secretive and isolating yourself from others, like I said, to recharge your internal battery. And so that can be that blind spot 5 part of you showing up, which usually
Mm-hmm.
happens in your closest relationships, where you feel the most comfortable, where your guard is totally down. Now, the 5 also brings a tremendous gift to the 7. And this is the growth path for the type 7. So you may notice that you become remarkably creative and able to combine your intellectual insights and passion to produce something stunning. You may be able to connect with others from both an intellectual and a passionate place, and generally give them the insights that you've gathered over time. You may have the ability to pull things apart and conceptualize new ways to look at them from a creative viewpoint. And then you're just more accepting of life. You may place more value on wisdom and discipline versus finding the next fun experience or fun thing to do. And so this can be some of the ways that the type 5 shows up in that growth path and gives you a real gift as a 7. Jeff, you want to take us through the aware exercise for the 7s?
Yeah. So the first thing I think is a way of applying this specifically to a type 7 is awaken to how you may be relating to others. Am I relating from a place of restriction? Am I becoming critical? Am I becoming avoidant? Am I moving away from people? Am I showing up to life with a lot of energy?
Mm.
Or is this the kind of energy that's kind of moving away from people? Okay, so that like it's the kind of energy that's it's not proportional to the circumstances that you're in. Second, rather than shame it, deny it, or justify it, to simply acknowledge that it's happening and become curious about it. What's behind? What needs are behind this? Then ask yourself. Start by asking yourself why this particular part of you is showing up right now. What needs are they seeking to address? Next is receive. That by giving yourself a moment, okay, just setting aside a moment to practice some silence and solitude, you may have some new thoughts about what's happening. Receive these new thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Receive the gifts of other parts having an opinion about what's going on in your life, and that maybe they're inviting you to relate in a more healthier way and to address a place from addressing your needs versus denying them. And then lastly is engaging with yourself. What does it look like to take care of yourself in this moment?
Mm.
What does it look like to re-engage in your relationships in a way that you're much more attuned to people and not your own self-interest?
Mm. Very good. Very good. Well said, Jeff. Well, that brings us to the end of our conversation today. We've talked about the types 5, type 6, and type 7. And I just want to thank you for joining us for this conversation. Jeff, thanks for leading us. And if you found this helpful, be sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to ask us your questions. You can reach out to us in the comments. Jeff and I love interacting with the comments on YouTube and Instagram. You can also email us at info@yourenneagramcoach.com. Don't forget to keep tuning in to our next few episodes. We're going to continue working through the triads. So we're going to talk through the heart triad and the gut triad in these future episodes. So make sure you tune in for those. And if you would like to know more about the lines and arrows, be sure to check out our book, More Than Your Number. The last section of that book lays out the specifics for each type and provides you with some self-coaching exercises to help you get to know yourself and practice self-leadership, especially this aware thing. I mean, the more you build aware into your life, honestly, the more aware you become, and it's really an amazing tool for transformation. So, thank you all for joining us, Jeff. It's been a real pleasure, and we'll see you all in the next episode.